Your Honors, you don't have to comply with all the requirements of appointments under the civil service law, Your Honor.
Okay, let's move on, Attorney. Let's discuss this, yung synchronization.
Synchronization.
Okay. Under ano ba yan? Section 1, RA 9164, di ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
It provides that there shall be synchronized barangay and sangguniang kabataang elections. Pagtapos na to, just, sinyasan mo lang ako, no? If Congress can postpone the SK elections, as petitioner, you have admitted in your petition, how can the barangay elections be synchronized with SK elections? If barangay elections, how can they postpone as well? How can Section 1 of RA 9164 be implemented if the date of the barangay elections is different from the date of the SK elections?
I think I answered that already, Your Honor.
I'll go to my next question then.
In that,
you would like to expound on your the answer?
No more, Your Honor.
The case of KIDA has already been also covered by the earlier declarations made by. Okay. Wala na. They have. I don't know if.
Pwede na, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, it is your position that any postponement or adjustment of the barangay election must only apply to future elections.
Yes, Your Honor, as I stated earlier.
Now, what is your basis, Attorney Macalintal, in invoking such limitation on the retroactivity of amendments to election-related laws, such that an amendment thereto should only refer to future elections but should not apply to the election of incumbent barangay officials?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you cite a provision in the Constitution that expressly or impliedly restricts the retroactive application of election-related law, such as the now assailed postponement of the December 5, 2022 barangay elections?
I cannot recall of any specific provision, Your Honor.
That's understandable, senior moments perhaps.
Yes, Your Honor. But the fact that the Constitution gives Congress the power to determine, as stated by the Honorable Justice Inting, to determine the term of office. Now, once that term is determined and made into law, then that term should be the one applicable. If that term is amended, then the term should apply to another election. Otherwise, as what is happening now, it is postponing that election, but it is a subtle way of extending the term of office of these barangay officials. That is the reason why I cannot accept, Your Honor, that my right to vote has been deprived.
Well said. I think that will be my last question. Can I have just two questions for the Solicitor General.
Are you here through, Your
Honor? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
For the clarification, sir.
Salamat, sir.
Apo.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. One of the reasons cited for the postponement is election fatigue. No. What is your basis for saying that the electorate is suffering from election fatigue? And is election fatigue a sufficient reason to postpone elections, sir?
Your Honor, my only reference material with respect to the purpose of the postponement of the barangay elections consists of the official records and journal of both chambers of Congress And as far as the journal of the House of Representatives would show, apparently issues pertaining to the budget as well as proposed increases in the allowances for poll workers were among those that needed to be discussed. With respect to the records of the Senate, it would appear that the principal reason given by Congress, by the Senate, in their desire also to postpone the barangay elections was to have enough or some more time to discuss electoral reforms that would also affect the forthcoming barangay elections. And we were made to understand that because of their current engagement about the General Appropriations Act, they're very busy with the GAA, they would need more time to consider possible electoral reforms that would also affect the barangay elections. So as far as the records are concerned, Your Honor, this would appear to be the reasons. But again, as I earlier stated, regardless of the reasons, unless there is a showing that there is grave abuse of discretion on the part of Congress, this is really something that goes into the wisdom of Congress and therefore should not be looked into, it being a political question.
As earlier observed, and this was admitted by the petition attorney Macalintal, that he did not even bother to allege in the petition itself that there was grave abuse of discretion to justify the invocation of the so-called expanded jurisdiction of this court. I recall Attorney Macalintal having responded to one of the questions made by one of my colleagues earlier. In any event, another reason cited for the postponement, Mr. Solicitor General, is that the funds can be used for economic recovery.
I have not seen any discussion regarding that alleged purpose. Your Honor, from a lawyer's point of view, I think there might be some complications if funds allotted for elections will be transferred or realigned for something like that. So but frankly, Your Honor, I have not seen anything in the records that would tend to show that that was the purpose.
This one is my next and maybe last question is pertains to again the term of office. So that when the people vote for their barangay officials, they expect them to serve only for the term initially fixed by Congress, sir. In essence, the mandate given by the people is only for that specific term, right? Now, isn't postponement a violation of this mandate, in your opinion, sir?
Your Honor, there are reasons being proffered by Congress for postponing the elections. And we have to respect those reasons given by Congress. If it somehow it results in quote unquote extending the term, although of course I do not subscribe to that view, because the matter of holding over is a concept which is far too different from extending one's term. But sadly, that is the case. So I guess we just have to live with it, Your Honor.
This question again would have no connection to the issues, but just the same. It's part of my list anyway. Now, during the height of the pandemic, the public was able to observe and assess the performance of their barangay officials. Shouldn't we give the people the earliest opportunity to accountability through ballots?
Your Honor, I suppose that matter has not been lost to the minds of our representatives in Congress, and they deem it fit that the best time to let these barangay officials be accountable for their performance would be on the date that they schedule the next elections. So unless we believe that that was tainted with grave abuse of discretion, then I guess we have to respect their decision that that moment of accountability should happen on the last Monday of October 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor General. I have no further question.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Justice Rosario. May we call Justice Ramon Paul Hernando to do the interpellation.
Chief Justice Mario Lopez.
Oh, sorry, Justice Mario Lopez.
Thank you, Chief and Justice. I'm no sorry, but I think anyway, it's just a few questions. Most of the questions that I am supposed to ask were already asked by my colleagues. And this is just a simple question that I will address to Attorney Macalintal. Yes, it's almost good evening. It's almost good evening, Attorney Macalintal.
Yes, Your Honor. Alam ko po pagod na rin po kayo.
Yeah, that's why I will not prolong my your agony,
Yes.
but I will
Thank you so
shorten
much.
it already. I have a very simple question. We all agree that the Congress is the repository of legislation. And under the Constitution, such power of legislation may only be restricted by a specific provision, so that absent of a specific provision, all acts of legislation is deemed implied in that general power vested to the legislature. That is correct.
Yes, sir.
All right. My question is simple, such that what specific provision is found in the Constitution that will prevent the legislature from postponing an election?
Well, Your Honor, I cannot recall of any provision that would deny Congress the power to postpone an election. But in this particular case, Your Honor, Congress is postponing it to extend the term of office of the barangay officials. And that is the reason why I say that there is grave abuse of discretion on the part of the Congress, because while it has the power to fix the term, it has no power to postpone the barangay elections, Your Honors.
Is there any specific provision to that effect, Attorney Macalintal?
Well, I cannot point at this now, at this specific provision, but the Constitution, insofar as the fixing of term of office of elected officials, is found under the Constitution that the Congress has the power to determine the term of office of the barangay official. So the power is to determine the term and not the power to postpone the election, Your Honor. So there is no power granted by the Constitution.
In my basic knowledge of constitutional interpretation, in case of any doubt, that should be resolved in favor of the law. And if it is in favor of the law, unless there is a specific prohibition, textual interpretation would prevent the Congress from enacting a postponement of an election.
Well, in this particular case, Your Honors, with due respect, I would say that in case of doubt or conflict, then the conflict of doubt should be resolved in favor of the right of suffrage.
Because my interpretation, Attorney Macalintal, regarding the implied, I would say, what you are saying is an implied prohibition, but not a specific or express prohibition because of the effect or consequence of such postponement.
Yes,
Is
Your
that
Honor.
correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
If so, may I ask this question? Is the power or authority to postpone an election a legislative function or an administrative function?
That is the administrative
Administrative
of the
function
Commission on Elections, Your Honors.
that cannot be considered as a legislative function.
By the I don't think so, Your Honor. The Congress could pass the law, Your Honor, but Congress cannot have the power to implement that law.
So if it is an administrative function, there must be a law from which such administrative function is based.
Yes, Your Honor. I think we have cited the provision of Article 9C, giving that power to the Commission on Elections, the power to postpone the election, Your Honor.
All right. You said that it is an administrative function, Attorney Macalintal. And what administrative provision would provide that the COMELEC has the power to postpone an election?
As I said, Your Honor, Section 5 of the Omnibus Election Code, and in connection also with Article 9C of the powers of the Commission on Elections, Your Honors.
Section 5?
Yes, Your Honor, giving the COMELEC the power to decide on issues pertaining to the postponement of barangay of the election, Your Honor.
Is that the specific provision granting the COMELEC the power to postpone an election?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's not. I'm sorry, Attorney Macalintal.
On causes as enumerated therein, Your Honors.
Section 45 of Article 6 of the Omnibus Election Code mentioned about postponement of
Section 5.
Section 45.
5, Your Honor.
Section 5, I'm sorry, Article 6 of, and the grounds are stated therein.
Yes, Your Honor. Many grounds, Your Honors.
Would you not consider this administrative function or duty based upon a specific provision or power of the legislature? And this is delegated to them, and such provision of Section 5 is not a grant, but a limitation. Or is it a grant?
Well, it is a grant of power, Your Honor, by the law itself. The Omnibus Election Code, as enacted by Congress, gave that power to the Commission on Elections, Your Honors.
And at the same time, there is a limitation.
No, the limitation could perhaps be on the causes, Your Honor, as long as the causes for the postponement are there.
Precisely. It is limited, one, when there is a failure of election by reason of the circumstances that are enumerated, like terrorism,
Violence.
etc., etc.
Yes,
And
Your Honor.
therefore, the matter of postponement is not an original function or duty of the COMELEC.
Well,
But it's simply a delegated authority by the legislature or the Constitution to that matter.
Yes, Your Honor. But under the present Constitution, Your Honor, but the Omnibus Election Code was passed in 1984, I think in 1984.
But we are under 1987 Constitution.
And this law is still existing at present, Your Honor.
Anyway, Attorney Macalintal, as I have said, many questions have been asked, and just a clarification. Now we have clarified that the matter of postponement is a administrative function, as you have stated.
And it becomes a quasi-judicial function if ever a petition is filed to that effect, Your Honor.
Therefore, there must be a law from way or a constitutional basis of this administrative function.
The law itself, Your Honor, Section 5 of the Omnibus Election Code, as amended by, I think, Republic Act 7166.
Cannot the Congress, Section 5 being a statutory provision, amend or revise the same?
I would say, Your Honor, that the Congress can amend, Your Honor, why not? But what the issue here, Your Honor, is this act of Congress changing the term of office of the barangay officials by in the guise of postponing the election. But the truth of the matter, as I submit, Your Honor, is that it extends the term of office of the barangay officials, depriving me of my right to vote or to choose my own barangay officials.
Thank you, Attorney Macalintal.
Sir, salamat po, sir.
Because my colleague had already discussed much about this consequence of holdover, etc.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The Solicitor General, just one point.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Solicitor. Just one point. The issue of postponement, would you say some effect, or what effect does it have to the right of suffrage?
Your Honor, I'm sorry. Your Honor, the matter of postponing any election does not really have any effect on the right of suffrage. It has an effect on the exercise of that right of suffrage, but not on the right itself, because voters are not deprived of their constitutional right to vote. It's just that the timing of the exercise of that right is the one affected. So insofar as the right itself is concerned, the postponement of the elections does not have any impact on the right of suffrage.
Mr. Solicitor, can we not accept the proposition that suffrage involves the right to vote as well as the right to be voted upon?
Yes, Your Honor.
Therefore, if that election is postponed, it has, at the very least, some effect over the exercise of that right.
Yes, Your Honor. It is deferred because precisely of the postponement.
And therefore, there is a restriction of the right of an individual.
No, Your Honor, there is no restriction on the right. It is just being deferred. The voter will actually be able to exercise that right at the newly appointed time.
What would be then the reason for that suffrage to be postponed? Or
Well, we leave that to the sound judgment of the legislature, Your Honor, as it has found so many acceptable and justifiable reasons for postponing barangay elections in the past. The most recent one of which is the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, which led to the cancellation of the elections scheduled in May of 2020, and its postponement to December 5, 2022.
as I was saying, there must at least have some cause or some effect on the electorates when an election is postponed. And what guarantee or what alleviation can we make so that this election cannot be postponed every now and then indiscriminately?
Your Honor, the Constitution itself does not provide any specific limitation on the power of Congress to determine the term or the number of terms of barangay officials. So we just have to leave that to the wisdom of our legislators.
In short, Mr. Solicitor, we can indefinitely postpone an election involving barangay officials.
Not indefinitely, Your Honor, because there should always be a new date. When barangay elections are postponed, then Congress is expected to specify the new date on which the elections would be held.
Is there a new date already fixed by 11/11/39?
Yes, Your Honor. That law specifically says that the election will be conducted on the last Monday of 2023. For as long as that date is determinable, Your Honor, I don't think that it is necessary to specify the actual date because it's something that can be determined.
It is determined, but once determined, there is no prohibition or saying that it will push through and that it will be postponed again.
That is a possibility, Your Honor, but that all depends on the circumstances that may be prevailing during that time. So we cannot really speculate on what may happen during that time. That's why we have this Congress to guide us in order to, if nothing untoward happens and everything is ready then perhaps we can help. We can hold the elections as scheduled in October of next year.
Can we use the strict scrutiny test to determine such validity of the act of the Congress? In case the election will be postponed again.
It all depends, Your Honor, on whether we are talking about any due process violation. But in this particular case, as I stated earlier, we do not see any issue pertaining to a due process violation of the Constitution.
I bring that issue because the petitioner had mentioned about this due process issue. At any rate, thank you, Mr. Solicitor General, and good evening.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Justice Mario. Justice Hernando will be the next to interpret.
Thank you, Chief Justice. May I please direct my questions at Petitioner Attorney Macalintal? Good afternoon, Attorney Macalintal.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
I've been wondering why you've taken to task Congress for coming up with this law, but not the President who signed it into law. Why not? Why have you not taken the task? The President to task for signing this into law?
Well, that's precisely why I have implemented, Your Honor, the Office of the President.
But only as implementer, no?
Yes, as an implementer, Your Honor.
But not for signing it? The President, I mean?
Well, I think that is already included, Your Honor, in that in my petition, Your Honor.
All right. Anyway, how is disenfranchisement defined or understood in our election laws?
Well, disenfranchisement, Your Honor, means that a voter is denied of his right to vote, Your Honor. So much so that in this particular case, it is my contention, Your Honors, that when these incumbent barangay officials are given an extension of their term of office, then they have practically taken away our right to vote. And that constitutes disenfranchisement of the enfranchised voters, Your Honor.
So it is a form of disenfranchisement, the act of postponing the elections.
And extending the term of office, Your Honors.
You must be familiar with the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights.
I'm not familiar, Your Honor. I would admit to that, Your Honor.
You should be, no, Mr. Macalintal.
I'm already too old.
We signed on. We signed on to this convention the year of my birth in 1966.
Oh, you're still very young.
And then we ratified it in 1986. And it's a convention that has been passed by the United Nations, consistent with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And this involves the right to vote. The convention recognizes that every citizen has a right to take part in public affairs. And the embodiment of that taking part is through the exercise of the will of the people through voting. And the convention says that the right to vote includes the right to vote and to be elected and genuine periodic elections. Genuine periodic elections. Well, it's a convention that's due to you, but having heard that, how would you interpret that, Petitioner Macalintal?
Well,
Genuine periodic elections.
I agree, Your Honor. Genuine periodic election, which means that
This act of postponing does not or is transgressive of genuine periodic elections.
I would say
to
yes.
which
Yes,
the
Your Honor.
Philippines has acceded as a state party to the convention.
Yes, Your Honor. Postponing and extending the term of office, Your Honor, is a violation of this principle of having a genuine periodic election. Precisely all these laws on barangay elections, they contain a specific term of office for the barangay officials to be elected. But what has happened in the past and up to the present, they kept on changing and amending this period of elections. And at the same time,
I guess what you're trying to say to us is yung right to vote ng isang tao, pag binoto ka, sabi ng tao sa'yo, ito hanggang 3 years ka lang.
yes, that is our
Kasi
contract.
nung bumoto kami sa'yo, ito yung batas.
Yes, Your Honor. Precisely, I was saying that ito ang ating kontrata. When I wrote your name in the ballot, I know that I am only paying you for 3 years. The ballot does not say that you should be extended. Now, once the term is extended, that violates that contract between me and that particular candidate, Your Honor.
Of course, that's not absolute, no?
Well, I would say
There should be exceptions, I would suppose.
I think that could be an absolute observation, Your Honor, because the moment you are denied your right and you were in
Section 5 of the Omnibus Election Code is not an exception.
I won't say not an exemption, Your Honor, but
It
is
provides
actually
for postponements by the COMELEC, as you
yes, Your
are
Honor.
insisting under certain conditions, no?
Yes, I would say, Your Honor, that is actually a protection of the right of the voting public, Your Honor, because if there are really serious causes that that would justify the postponement of election to ensure a clean and honest and credible election, then COMELEC can exercise that power, and the exercise of that power is would constitute a protection of the right of the voters' right to vote, Your Honors.
Mm. This current crop of barangay officials, how long have they been sitting there in the barangay halls? Petition?
To date, I think they are already there for 4 years,
So they were elected in 2018.
2018. But some of them were re-elected. They were there since 2013. 2013, we had the barangay election, and they stayed there until 2015. No, 2013 up to 2018. That was 5 years. Now, those who ran for re-election and were re-elected, they are serving from May 2018 up to the present. And if they would be
Their
extended
term should have ended last year, no?
last year, Your Honor, last year.
But in 2020, it was the 2021 barangay elections were scrapped
The May 2020 elections was postponed to December 5, 2022.
due to the pandemic, no?
Well, there is no specific reason stated in the law, Your Honor. We don't know. But I'm just wondering why they are saying that the pandemic could cause the postponement, because we were able to hold a national and local elections last May 2022. Still at the height of the pandemic, Your Honors. So I don't believe that the pandemic would be the cause of the extension of the term of office of these barangay officials, Your Honors.
Yes. On the other hand, the state can also argue that the members of Congress who just passed or enacted this law are the very same ones who are exercising the will of the people, no?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because they have obviously been elected into that office by the people. So now there has to be a balancing somewhere between a congressman's or a legislator's exercise of his rights as representative of the people and the very right of the people or the will of the people.
But as a matter of fact, Your Honor, I would even say that this abuse of power, Your Honor, could be used as a political propaganda by these people who had the power to amend the law. Because they could always tell the barangay officials that if you elect me, then I will extend your term of office. If you elect me, sigurado ma-extend ka, you will stay there. Gaano katagal yun? Oh, basta akong bahala dyan, tatagal ka dyan. Anyway, walang makakapagreklamo sa atin. Si Macalintal lang siguro kung isusustay ng Supreme Court. So that would happen, Your Honor. The political propaganda could be used in order to influence all these barangay captains to vote for a particular candidate or a particular the candidates of a particular political party with the promise that their term will be extended. It might be both buying, di ba, George, pero hindi na po pwede siguro because that is the law.
Mhm. When did the current Congress start deliberating on postponing these barangay elections?
I cannot recall, Your Honor, when they started deliberating.
But obviously after the May election.
Yes, after the May election, Your Honor. So
They enacted it on September 28, and then the President signed it into law October 10.
yes, Your Honors. Okay.
So had the President signed it September 29, based on what the chair of the COMELEC has been telling us, there would have been sufficient or adequate time for
Your
them
Honor. Yes, Your Honor. But I
to
still,
administer the elections this December.
but I would still submit, Your Honors, that COMELEC has all the time, Your Honor. If this honorable court will sustain my petition, it has all the time, and the people will be very, very happy to exercise their right of suffrage, Your Honor.
Well, but you do recognize that COMELEC can postpone the elections under
Yes.
certain conditions.
Because of some causes, Your Honors, that might cause the holding of that will affect the holding by orderly, credible election. COMELEC can do that, but
Under justifiable reasons.
yes, but while it can postpone, it is mandated by law to proceed with the election on a date very close to the date it was scheduled upon the cessation of the cause of the postponement of the election, Your Honor.
It would not constitute a disenfranchisement.
No more, Your
as long
Honor.
as it is justified.
Yes, Your Honor. As long as it is pursued, Your Honor, by the Commission on Elections after the cessation of the cause of the postponement.
But you would agree that the postponements transgress the genuine periodic elections
Yes, Your Honor.
standards
Yes, Your
under the
Honor.
International Convention on
Yes, Your Honor.
Civil and Political Rights.
Especially if the postponement is done without any valid reason at all, Your Honors.
All right. Thank you, Petitioner.
Thank you very much, Your Honors, and I will look into that convention papers, Your Honor.
You better do.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you for the information.
Chief, I have no questions for General Guevara.
Thank you, Justice Mon Hernando. Can I now ask Justice Ben Cagiwa?
Thank you. Can I call my friend, Solicitor General Guevara? My questions are for you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
The power of Congress to determine the term of barangay officials is Article 10, Section 8, correct?
Article 10, Section 8, Your Honor.
Of the Constitution.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I have heard it mentioned a lot of times, and you yourself have mentioned it, that this power of Congress is plenary,
Yes, Your Honor.
almost limitless,
Subject to certain limitations,
such as
the provision in the Bill of Rights that prevents Congress from enacting bills of attainder, ex post facto laws.
Understood. But
etc.
with specific reference to Article 10, Section 8, limitless?
Based on the provision of that particular provision, there seems to be no limitations imposed on Congress on the matter of determining the term
period.
of barangay officials.
That's right. And that is why we have had experiences in the past where the term has been set at 3 years, then some have been set at 5 years.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Let me push boundaries here to Mr. General. Can Congress set it at 10 years?
That is possible because there's no prohibition to set it at 10 years.
Can Congress set it at 50 years?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can Congress set it at 100 years?
Well, of course, this all goes also technically, theoretically, yes. But of course, that will all depend on the deliberations of Congress. If they believe that setting a term of 50 years
Or 100?
is reasonable or unreasonable. I mean, we, of course, view our representatives in Congress as reasonable human beings. That's why we voted for them.
That's where I'm going. So therefore, the law has to be reasonable. Do you agree?
Yes, Your Honor. I will
And therefore, the court, the Supreme Court, can inquire into the reasonableness of the period fixed by Congress. Correct?
As to the reasonableness of the period, if there are indications that the period determined by Congress is tainted with grave abuse of discretion, then the answer is yes.
So 100 years.
Pursuant to your expanded power of judicial review.
For Congress to set the period for barangay officials at 100 years, isn't that grave abuse of discretion?
I myself would say yes, Your Honor.
Because you are denying generations of Filipinos from exercising the right of suffrage. Correct?
Not only that, Your Honor. 100 years.
So, if I'm allowed, if the court is allowed to go into the reason of the law, let me go to the reasons of this law. All right? I've done my own research, or I should say my lawyers have. And there were some proposed bills from which this final iteration came about. There was a proposal by Senator Win Gatchalian. There was a proposal by Senator Jinggoy Estrada. And a proposal from Senator Francis Escudero. Do you confirm that these were the progenitor proposals from which this law came from?
Yes, Your Honor.
And I noticed that the reason that they give is economic. The reason is that in the words of Senator Escudero, finally, and I quote him, finally, the bill enables the government to realign a portion of the 8.44 billion appropriations for the barangay and SK elections towards interventions aimed at sustaining our current momentum in addressing the coronavirus pandemic and achieving our collective socio-economic objectives. Do you confirm that that's the reason?
I have not seen actually the draft bill as proposed by the said senator. Your Honor, that's why I cannot confirm or deny.
These are all downloaded from the website of Senate. So in the explanatory note for the proposal of Senator Estrada, he says in paragraph 2, furthermore, our country is still in the midst of a pandemic brought about by COVID-19. Our country has not yet fully recovered from the havoc brought about by the pandemic. The budget in the amount of 8 billion for the conduct of the said election can be used to fund economic programs and health services to ease the effects of pandemic to all Filipinos, particularly to those who were greatly affected. Again, do we have any question that these are the reasons given for the passage of this bill?
I am not in a position to confirm, Your Honor, because I have not seen it.
Since the chairman is here of COMELEC, can I ask him to confirm whether or not, in fact, these are the reasons propounded by Senate for this bill?
Good afternoon, Your Honors.
Good afternoon.
When we appeared before the House of Representatives, that would appear to be the reason given by the members of the House. But when we appeared before the Senate, we were not given that particular reason. But since the Honorable, Your Honor had mentioned that, then it would appear to be the same reason as given to us by the House of Representatives.
Okay. My question goes precisely to the reasons. If the reason is shown to be false or non-existent, does that allow the court to step in and say that this law was issued with grave abuse of discretion?
Can I answer that, Your
Yes,
Honor?
please.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Well, of course, under Article 8, Section 1 of the Constitution, you have the
Expanded
power of judicial review, and that is a new innovation of the 1987 Constitution, especially if there is grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction. If that is the case, if the reason does not conform to what is legally acceptable, then that is grave abuse of discretion, I would say.
And therefore, the court will be allowed to look into the authenticity or to the validity of this law because the reason given for the law simply does not exist.
I would agree, Your Honor.
Correct?
Yes.
In other words, the proposition is just talking about plenary power of Congress, just talking about political question. The Congress cannot issue a law simply because gusto nila. There must be a reason, right?
Technically, Your Honor, under Article 8, Section 1, there is no more political question. Technically, under the Constitution right now, political questions are things of the past, simply
Correct.
because you can always inquire.
That's why the law need not say the reason for the law, but there must be a reason for the law. Are we agreeable to that?
We agree, Your Honor, in the Commission.
Are we agreeable, Mr. Solicitor General?
Of course, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, can I call back Chairman? Chairman, I have a basic conundrum here. Article 9, Section 5 of the Constitution, speaking of constitutional commissions, says the commission, and this includes the Commission on Elections, shall enjoy fiscal autonomy. Their approved annual appropriations shall be automatically and regularly released. Correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
In common parlance, isang bagsakan lang to, di ba?
Tama po, Your Honor.
Kailan to binagsak?
It was given to us for this year, Your Honor, the
Yes.
8.441 billion pesos.
When was it given?
It was given sometime by sometime March of this year.
March of this year.
Yes, sure.
Therefore, the money is no longer with the Philippine Treasury, it is with you, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And since you are a CIFAG or a constitutionally fiscally autonomous group, the alignment of these funds to fund social civic projects or other public projects is not by legislature, correct?
That's not by legislature.
It's by you.
Yes, sure.
Therefore, when they say that the money for this can be used for other projects, what are they talking about?
With all due respect, Your Honor, I really do not know because as far as the law is concerned, it says that that the fund is subject to a continuing appropriation by the Commission.
Exactly. And that fund is earmarked, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
It's earmarked for elections.
That's
It
right.
cannot be used for any purpose other than elections.
You are correct, Your Honor.
It cannot be realigned by the President, by the Supreme Court Chief Justice, by the Senate President. It cannot be realigned because they're not COMELEC,
Only by the COMELEC, Your Honor.
only by you.
Yes, sure.
And therefore, when you give us a reason for this law that government can use that 8.8 billion to fight the pandemic, that is not a correct reason. Do you agree?
I would like to agree, Your Honor.
And therefore, we are now faced with a situation with a law that says it doesn't say what its reason is, but the proposed reason coming from the proposals do not appear to be correct. Correct?
That may be the conclusion that will be derived from the series of questions.
That's right. And therefore, the Supreme Court can in fact look into this law and say, bakit nga ba?
No doubt on the power of the Supreme Court to inquire into the validity and constitutionality of this law.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, Chief.
That's it? That is Ben? Senior Associate Justice Marvick.
With your
For me, Your Honor.
good evening, Solicitor General.
Good evening.
As you may have noticed, we have reversed the procedure that we have now done reverse seniority. So the more junior members will ask, and then going up to the chief, so that we can go faster. With your leave, may I ask again the chair of COMELEC to take the podium, and I just want to remind the chair of the COMELEC that the Solgen is your lawyer. At any point, you may want to consult with him so that you do not contradict each other. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
So you said that you had 8 billion, more or less.
Yes, Your Honor. 8.441 billion pesos.
Okay, very good. And that 8.441 billion is still with you right now,
Yes, Your Honor.
plus or minus a few millions, correct? Because you have done the preparations.
That's right, Your Honor.
So last year, when they were considering the budget, they already knew, Congress already knew that there was a possibility. In fact, they gave you the capability to actually conduct the elections on December 5, 2022. Is that not correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. By giving us the money, Your Honor.
Yes. And before you entered COMELEC as chair, the COMELEC already knew, at least with the acting chair, I think it was acting chair Inting, they already knew that they were going to conduct after the national elections, the barangay and the Sangguniang Kabataan elections. Is that not correct?
That's correct. We're already preparing by that time, Your Honor.
So by the time that you were conducting the national elections, COMELEC was also looking forward, because I know all of you to be very good managers and administrators. You were already looking forward, preparing yourselves and your staff to conduct the barangay elections on December 5. Is that
Yes, Your Honor.
correct?
Yes, Your Honor, because we needed several months to prepare for the barangay and SKL.
So you had the will, you had the capability, you had the experience, you had the funds to actually do it by, let us say, June of this year, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
By September of this year, you were also prepared to actually conduct it, correct?
That's right, Your Honor.
And the only thing that blocked you was not anything, was not your incapability, not your lack of management skill, not your lack of experience, not the lack of budget, but this law. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
In other words, the only thing that made it impossible for you to conduct the elections is this law that postponed it.
Yes, Your Honor. And we...
So the reason for postponing the elections is not logistical, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. What about voter fatigue? You are in COMELEC. How do you measure voter fatigue? Or is there such a thing?
We have not heard of such a thing, Your Honor.
And because we are a state that is democratic and Republican, it means that we are ready to conduct regular elections, correct?
As far as the COMELEC is concerned, yes, under Article
That is
9.
why there is a COMELEC. As a matter of fact, that's why the COMELEC has been elevated to a constitutional commission, because we are supposed to be prepared to be conducting different types of elections and plebiscites and referenda and recall at any given time. Correct?
Correct, Your Honor. That's our constitutional duty.
I am so happy, Chair Garcia, that you have said that you have always been prepared, and the only reason that it has become improbable, because I want to remove the word impossible, is because of this law. Correct?
I will confirm that, Your Honor, yes.
Okay. Now, if the court issues a TRO